Hello, this is the systems analysis for the Tallahassee, Florida recycling program. Approximately 8 million pieces of plastic find their way into our oceans every day. But out of the 6.3 billion metric tons of plastic produced, only 9% has been recycled. The cheapness, durability, and universality of single-use plastic coupled with capitalistic growth mindset has fueled consumption to unsustainable levels. By 2050, plastic will be produced 3 times more of today. There'll be more plastic than there is fish. And only 6% of the plastic of oil is used to make plastic. By 2050, 20% of oil will make plastic. 78 million tons are produced today. 1/3 go directly into the environment by leakage. 40% goes straight to a landfill. Only 14% is collected, and only 2% are part of a closed loop recycling.
So why does this matter to us in particular? So especially Florida is a peninsula, so plastic never really goes away, and the plastic pollution extracts fossil fuels and pollutes the environment. This plastic waste then breaks down into microplastics, which contaminate our groundwaters and leaks into our oceans. And these microplastics are eaten by plants and fish, which are later eaten by us. So especially for places like Florida, plastic pollution has detrimental effects on not only our environment, but our health.
Yeah, so as we can see, the plastic life cycle is detrimental to our environment. The way that it's produced and disposed of is very reckless. And there's a lot of leakage that happens of different toxic chemicals. These toxic chemicals into our environment then in turn affect our health because we're exposed to our environment, the water that we drink, especially that comes from the Florida aquifers. This is especially a high risk for Florida of having plastic pollution in our waterways. Not only that, but our farmlands that we have here in Florida, the water that runs off into those farms and from those farms, they affect our oceans, and then that in turn affects larger economic structures like our fishing markets that we have here in Florida. If fish are becoming contaminated with toxic chemicals and are no longer edible, local fishermen are going to be at risk of losing their jobs because obviously it's not going to be safe to eat. So obviously Florida recognizes that they need to protect their natural resources, our waterways, our oceans, our land. So the Florida Department of Environmental Protection has addressed this problem by establishing a statewide weight-based recycling goal of 75% by 2020. While this is very promising, unfortunately, Florida's 2018 recycling rate was only at 49%, falling short of their 2018 goal of 70%. So as we can see, Florida has interest in having a sustainability agenda, but right now they're not able to achieve it. So looking at Tallahassee, that is not only our backyard for Florida State, but also the capital of Florida. We thought it was really important to see the system that we're working with locally. So this begins with the city of Tallahassee and Leon County. As you can see, there's a mutual link between them. They partnered together for first a contract with Waste Pro. They contracted them for all waste collection and disposal. But then the city and the county also partner to contract out Marpan Recycling, and they fund Marpan for their recycling services. It's also important to note that Leon County owns and operates a transfer station of waste. So essentially how this process works in our local community is that the local community, like residents and local businesses, they generate waste, and this is mutually collected by Waste Pro. And then Waste Pro separates this between their waste, which they regular garbage disposal waste gets delivered to the transfer station, which then is sorted and transported to the actual landfill. And then landfills, as we know, pollute the environment. And then with the recyclables, they deliver recyclables specifically to Marpan, and then Marpan processes the recyclables for the city and the county and sells this to regional buyers. Previously, they had a bigger market because of China, but this has impacted them locally. And you can see that as well when the waste enters the landfill and pollutes the environment. This in turn affects us because we impact one another. Our the things that we do as humans impact the environment, and the environment provides us with the proper needs to live. So if we don't mutually take care of each other, there's obviously negative effects.
So challenges. So on December 9th, 2019, the county and the city of Tallahassee received a letter from Marpan indicating that their single stream recycling plant is operating at a deficit due to worsening marketing conditions. Marpan then indicated that it will be forced to cease operations and terminate its contract with the city and county due to these circumstances. Another challenge that arose is that in 2018, China stopped accepting American recycling. So now there is simply too much supply and not enough demand. The local government has agreed to pay $168,000 in recycling costs to Marpan for the remaining of the fiscal year for them to remain open.
So as we can see, the change in the international market had a big effect on our local market in Tallahassee. And the Marpan recycling facilities are no longer able to operate on their own. The United States Environmental Protection Agency had a community convention with about 45 other organizations from the recycling industry, manufacturers, producers, and the government, different states of government. And collectively, they decided the challenges nationwide that we're facing. The three that they listed are confusion about what materials can be recycled. There's also outdated recycling infrastructure and reduced export markets for recycling materials. So this is happening nationwide, but locally we can see this as we have a lack of community education because recycling has been kept low. We also have an outdated recycling infrastructure that limits its market, since Marpan only processes their recycling into bales and sells these bales off to regional buyers. There's only one minimal viable product that they're offering. So this limits their market potentiality. And then you have reduced export markets has caused Marpan to operate at a deficit. So because of this and the lack of buyers, now they're operating at a deficit, and their entire business model is now at risk of no longer operating, and Tallahassee's at risk of losing their recycling program if they don't make a change.
So here are some existing solution efforts. So for example, Loop Industries, which patented their own revolutionary low energy depolymization technology to transform low value and no value waste into high value chemicals. These chemicals are then used to create plastic of the highest quality suitable for food grade packaging and other products. And Renewlogy, which is another company who patented their own technology that basically allows companies to avoid landfill costs and earn $600 per ton of revenue while lowering their carbon footprint.
Another two solutions that exist currently are Recology and TerraCycle. Recology is a social enterprise that is funded in San Francisco by San Francisco, and it goes and collects city waste and provides education and art programs. It sells the compost to local farmers and then uses the methane from landfills for energy. Another is TerraCycle, which is a social enterprise that basically tackles the issue of recycling from different angles. They're in 20 different countries. They take hard recycled materials from like oceans, and they turn them into new products. Their Loop platform works with favorite national brands, for example, like Brita, to offer refillable packaging delivered straight to your door for convenience and style. And they also offer free recycling services and consulting.
So, based off of the national models that we've identified, each model in their own way is tackling the problem of recycling and at the same time presenting solutions to the challenges that were uh, pointed out by the EPA. So, we've kind of like picked different things from them and used them for inspiration and identified the gaps within our own local community. The first one is that there's a lack of adequate funding to improve our local infrastructure. According to the capital improvement plan, the city of Tallahassee expects to spend a total of $28 million on their environmental services and facilities in the next 5 years. They also plan to spend a little under $1 million on community beautification and waste management. Knowing this information and the fact that the city and the county have recently spent $70,000 to contract a consulting company in South Florida to analyze the recycling process, we think that this shows an interest to find a long-term financially viable recycling solution, and that the local government must allocate the appropriate funds to an option that is long-term financially sustainable for the city. Our second one that we've identified is there's a lack of domestic and export markets. Obviously, Marpan doesn't have the revenue to keep their business model open. So if the local government invests time and money into improving their infrastructure, they'll be able to offer more services and products locally. This can look like the depolymerization technology from Renewology or Loop Enterprises. This can look like nationwide strategic partnerships with major corporations like as well TerraCycle. They had their Loop program where they worked with national brands. These are all examples of different ways and different forms of revenue generation that promote a circular economy in Tallahassee. And these partnerships also promote resource stewardship and environmental sustainability. The last challenge that we've identified is a lack of community education and awareness. Leon County is currently working on establishing a capital area sustainable business recognition program. Working with the Leon County Sustainability Office, we've identified that this is actually a potential area for a lever of change, because this program essentially is going to be working with community partners to lower their carbon footprint. This is a great way for us to meet and interact with our community stakeholders. And in, let's say, the version of an ambassador, we can have personalized presentations to the public and private sector, like schools, businesses, home communities, pretty much talking about different ways that we can become more sustainable not only in our waste but in our water usage, our energy usage, and just create more conversations around sustainability. So given the challenges recommended by the EPA and our systems map analysis of Tallahassee, these are the gaps and levers of change that we've identified. And government of Tallahassee applies our recommendations for a closed loop recycling model. then we believe that the city will be able to achieve long-term financial sustainability and positive environmental change.